Who the f is Nelk? This is how the Nelk boys made $100 million from a clothing brand. The most any YouTuber has ever made. Our story starts in suburban Canada in the early 2000s, where Kyle Forjard got his passion from making videos.
I've had enough of this. No one knows who I am. I quit, okay?
He recruited his friends, and after a while, they started doing pranks. At this point, only the top 1% of creators were actually making money off YouTube. Everyone else was just doing it for fun. So let's cut to a couple years later. About 30,000 subscribers in, Kyle met Jessie. So who's MTV Jessie? He was an internet prankster who had his own show on MTV and an all-around creative, funny guy. They linked up and did a couple of pranks, and eventually Jessie joined Nelk. They were doing great, but the inevitable problem came through. Although they were racking in loads of views, they were just never getting paid. Their videos are just simply too outrageous. It doesn't matter how many millions of views you get. So to combat this, they dropped hoodies and started their clothing brand. As clothing brand owners, I'm sure we can all take a look at this and say, there's honestly nothing special about it. These hoodies don't have any wow factor, any real reason to buy them. They don't really fit any product analysis parameters. But that didn't matter at all. That's why when their time of need came around and they needed money, their fans delivered. They didn't care if it was a blank hoodie. They would have bought that shit. Okay, so rolling into 2019, 2020, we're a couple eras deep into Nelk. The merch designs are getting better, and the merch in general is getting more sophisticated with better website. And this is where two major things start to happen. Nelk start pushing the merch in near enough every single video with its own segment, and the Nelk boys become individual Pokemon. I know what you're thinking. What the f are you talking about? But this is the real genius behind Kyle, Jessie, and Nelk. Think about your favorite TV show. You have your favorite character, and then you have the other character. And this was where Nelk came in. You had all these individual guys who were doing this anti-establishment type of thing, and he not being allowed to. They were getting age restricted, they were getting taken down. And so the only way to keep this thing going, this cultural phenomenon, was merch, allsend.com. That slogan is what Nelk is. The ideas that the frat boy, 16 to 26-year-old male loved so much about Nelk was being kept alive by the very people who were invested in their ideals. No wonder they got into politics. So if you wanted what they were doing to keep going, all you need to do, directly stated by Kyle, is keep buying the merch and keep watching the videos, because they're not going to recommend it to you and they're not going to pay us for our views. And so people bought it. There's records of Steve Will Do It making $1 million in a day from a t-shirt. Literally hype, scarcity, community.
Scarcity.
It was literally as simple as get it before it's gone, support your favorite influencer, and most importantly, an enemy. YouTube, or the traditional mainstream media. Having the enemy was so key, because Gen Z related so hard to these comedy, outrageous videos. The fact that they were constantly getting taken down for being too much is then what made them go even more viral. You can see a great example of this in the 1970s with rock and roll music. You can see the exact same thing in the 90s with gangster rap. And you can pretty much see examples of anti-establishment throughout the entire culture that we've been living in for the last 200 years. The other thing that put Kyle on Forbes Under 40 was his prowess in marketing. Obviously, we've spoken about marketing, influencers, and the whole general idea. I'm talking more specifically about his trailers, his pre-drop trailers. They're pretty hard to find now, but Kyle and Jessie were making these pre-drop trailer videos that were fucking crazy. Excitable, out there, jumping in the pool, different level shit. And they were just masters of building hype. There's records of them pulling in 500,000 people on the website at the same time, crashing Shopify multiple times, and obviously making over $100 million. When you hear numbers like that, they genuinely do solidify themselves as the best ever. It genuinely isn't Michael or LeBron. They are Michael and LeBron. After the merch, they launched Happy Dad, and nowadays that's their main focus. The clothing is still up, and I'm pretty sure it's still printing, but as an evergreen store, not as these crazy drops. I think they make a lot of money off the golf stuff and with their other brands like their tequila and UFC sponsorships. Little side note though, MTV Jessie, after leaving the group, launched his own brand called Sunday. They just did $1 million in revenue, which is fucking crazy because it's the most relaxed campaign I've ever seen in my whole life. I can relate so hard to just struggling to make 100K, and this guy can pop out with a brand new brand and do $1 million when the designs literally look like the original Nelk hoodies. Nothing against him. I love the idea that he's going for. It's obviously working, but it's just crazy how he can come out of something so driven into one direction, pop completely into the other direction, and be super successful as well. It just shows you this guy is actually a master of marketing. The truth is, the Nelk boys are the best example that you don't need to be good at designing or fulfillment or back end or running a brand at all. You need to be good at marketing and building a fan base of people who actually love you and would go to bat for you and would go to war for you and would start a riot for you, which is literally what they did. There's nowhere on the internet that you can get that much glee and that much excitement and that much craziness, and there is just nobody else out there who was ready to take that amount of risk until there was.